Holy frozen Nox War. This is Flight Check, Season 4, Episode 1. We're back. One more time. With an all-new season. The first time of the year. With an all-new season of Flight Check. Very exciting stuff. We've got so much to cover this year. So much to cover just in this one episode alone. And I, for one, am very excited with what we have in store for you tonight. Unfortunately, Nox War's camera is not quite with us. So he will be stuck in this frozen thumbs up pose. But
that polar vortex got to his motherboard, man.
Yeah, but have no fear. He is still here. He is still with us.
I'm just slightly frozen down in Dallas, Texas. There was actual snow on the ground. It's crazy.
But he is here. My name, as always, is Sandy Toes. To my left and my extra left, my constant co-host, Nox War and Curly Double Q. But one more special guest on this Season 4 premiere, the brand new FlyQuest General Manager, Mr. Andrew Barton. Andy, how are you doing today? Holiday across the United States, but not for all of us. Sounded like you had a player to pick up earlier today.
Yeah, it's the holiday's been great. This is actually our first day off as a team since about 2 weeks, I would say, since the beginning of the year, kind of. So it's been great. I saw Inspired today, took him to the office and whatnot. He's there grinding solo queue and whatnot. So, but everyone else still has the day off.
Very nice. Well, it's good to hear. Hey, I mean, technically he's European, right? So
Yes.
Well, he has the green card. I guess now the federal holidays do apply to him. He has to know when they happen and exercise.
He didn't realize it was a holiday either. So he was trying to eat breakfast downstairs and he was so confused as to why so many people were out today, why no one's at work, and I'm like, well, it's a holiday, my guy. It's why we're off too.
You have to teach him what his employee rights are. I mean, it's his right to take this day off. But look, if the man wants to grind some solo queue on MLK Day, then by all means. Nox, Curly, great to see you guys again after our long winter break. Nox, you wouldn't know it based off of your frozen camera, but you are in a new location. How is the new house working out for you? And please do not dox yourself along the way.
No doxing. Doxing's bad. The new house is been 80% good. The 20% that is not has been just kind of growing pains of learning to deal with living with a house.
Yeah.
Things that break down, the things that are not built yet, the things that I want changed, etc. Case in point is normally I would be in an office right now, but as of about an hour or so ago, I lost power to my entire office. None of the electricity is flowing into that room at all right now. So I am currently sitting on my bed per usual, like I did back in my apartment, but now it's in my actual bedroom in my house, which is kind of cool. So eventually you'll see me with a working camera in an office and it'll all be good. But other than that, house life's been fantastic, man. I would highly recommend for those who are able to do so. I know it's a privilege for a lot of people, but if you get the chance, investment wise and even just quality of life wise, houses are fantastic. Would do again.
Fantastic. Well, super psyched for you and your wife. What a great move, and hopefully more great things to come in the future. Curly, talk about your Christmas, your New Year's. Where have you been? What have you been up to?
Oh, man. Well, so for Christmas, I went home to good old Western New York, stayed with the grandparents, caught up with cousins, found out their crazy antics in Lithuania, et cetera, et cetera. And then my personal favorite thing that happened, though, was I hosted a nice New Year's Eve party at my house with a lot of my close friends here in Ohio. Went way too hard for the charcuterie. My wallet hated me, but my, the host in me was very happy with it.
Very good.
And honestly, everything just went really well with that. My only notes for the future, I say that I actually have a whole note app that I wrote the second everyone left. But one of the biggest notes is never buy champagne from Trader Joe's because most of the weight is the bottle, not the liquid. It is very deceptive. So yeah, aside from that, it's just been a really good time. And then I've been kind of, slowly getting into 2024, getting ready to attack my resolutions. And now that we had this, kind of been a kickstart on, oh yeah, I want to do content. So I've been getting ready to do that.
Are you able to disclose, you kind of glossed over it there, disclose what these antics in Lithuania were? Because you've piqued my curiosity now.
Okay. All I will say is that my cousin is a sports management major in their junior year of university, and they were on a week-long trip to Lithuania after Thanksgiving. And they had they had a good time experiencing Eastern Europe. And
Eastern European hospitality.
Eastern European hospitality.
Excellent.
Yeah. All I will say is, if you are ever someone who plays the game and worried about your Riz, just know that you cannot fumble harder than the German she met, because that man did not take a knee. He did not fumble. He gave himself a red card and took himself out of the game, and that's all I will say about it.
All right. Well,
amazing.
That's a good analogy, and we will leave it there. Andy, last few weeks, holidays here in the States. Has it been holiday? Was it holiday time for you? Did you see family, or were you still grinding away in the office last few weeks?
I would say so. I went home back to Texas the middle of December, and so I really used kind of that 2 weeks, during Christmas, New Year's. I don't want to say check out at esports a little bit, but just kind of remember a little bit, who I am, the friends I made along the way, everyone from back home, see my family.
Right.
So I used a lot of that time really to recharge, and then got back to LA on January 2nd, and we've been grinding since.
Awesome.
But the holidays were great. Saw family, got to do New Year's at a friend's house. We had a bunch of people over, and it was great. So
Sweet.
Had a great time.
The real esports off season was the friends we made along the way. So
it's true.
Awesome. Yeah, for myself, we just we stayed in. For those of you who don't know, my wife and I, we got married back in September. So after all that busyness and traveling, we told everyone, nope, you can come to us if you'd like to do the holidays. So just had a couple family members in. It was real good. Very quiet, a lot of reading, a lot of football watching, a lot of
goal right there, though. That sounds fantastic.
Lots of Patriots mourning occurred. That was
Oof.
It's been a tough end to the year.
Can't relate. Go Bills.
Well, look, we won't talk about that. Anyway, off season though is about to come to a close. LCS is only now it's on Saturday, so my calculations are off. It's only 5 days away. Which is crazy. Back to Saturdays and Sundays. That was the big news that we missed during our little break. And I did want to get y'all's takes on this real quick before we dive into the rest of tonight. Back to Saturdays and Sundays. I will be honest, I was probably one of the few people who appreciated the Thursday Fridays only because it gave me 2 extra days to catch up on what had happened before having to do the show. So now games are going to happen over the weekend, and if I don't watch, it's going to be a mad scramble on Monday afternoon to watch some VODs. So Andy, I actually want to ask you first how you feel either personally or maybe like from the org's professional standpoint about the move back to the weekends. Are you guys excited for this? Does it feel right going back to the old ways? What's the general vibe on it?
I would say, from my personal POV, I'm definitely more excited to have it back on the weekend. I think the time slot is very important, especially when we look at viewership and, wanting to attract more European viewership and just all around the world and whatnot. So I'm really excited to be back on weekends. I would say, from a personal POV, I enjoyed actually having the games during the week, I would say. And that's because what happens is during the Saturday, Sunday type of model, Monday becomes our off day. And, Monday is a business day. And so a lot of stuff is always happening at the beginning of the week. And so it ends up becoming a lot more challenging to really actually take a day off on the business side. But that's kind of the life I would say we all signed up for in esports. So a lot of work, a lot of hours. And so, at the end of the day, I'm happy that, I think this is best for the league, what they're doing right now. And so I only want to see the LCS succeed and push us in that direction. So from a league perspective, I'm extremely happy.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately I do agree with you. Selfishly, it was the Thursday, Friday, but I do feel really good about moving back to Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, Knox, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I was just mirroring both of you. Selfishly, Thursday and Fridays actually worked better for me because just weekends, it's like, I mean, as a 28-year-old, or I say 28, I'm not even 28 yet. I'm about to be 28-year-old male. Like, I have like life responsibilities I got to do, and a lot of those lifetime responsibilities are needing to be fulfilled on the weekend, whether it be like socializing with friends or doing errands, or in my case, now taking care of a house. Like, I have to go out and buy things for this house now. I don't have as much free time on the weekends as I used to, and as much as I would want to. And so what I noticed this past year while it was on Thursdays and Fridays is LCS would start around like 3 or 4 p.m. And it's like, well, I'm going home and I don't want to do anything else for the rest of the night. So I'm tossing on LCS and it's like, I'm just chilling for the night. It was great. But I understand 100% that I'm not the target audience that I once used to be back when I was a teenager and early 20s in college. I am a more niche audience now, which is fine. And Riot needs to target their main audience, which is far younger than me now. And those guys are typically still in college and have a lot more free time on the weekends. So by all means, I think it's a good change. I'm lamenting a little bit. It sucks. I kind of did like having it on Thursdays and Fridays, actually.
Yeah, Curly, as the younger one of our trio, how are you feeling about the move back to weekends?
Well, it's kind of funny, right? Because with when I was doing my last semester last year, it actually worked out real well for me because it kind of fell in what little downtime I would have. But when it came to the summer, it kind of actually ended up conflicting with most of my shifts because it started later in the day and I'm a bartender. So it's like having it on Saturday, Sunday is definitely more appealing for me because I can watch most of it before I head into work if I even work a Saturday anymore. And then on Sunday, I just put it on while I'm playing D&D with my homies. And so it's just like when I'm waiting for my turn in combat, because there's 6 of us, it's just like, all right, let's see how the game's going.
It takes a hot minute to get through all those people.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. So I can watch like at least 2-3 good plays, a nice Baron contest, whatever. So I'm definitely kind of excited to have it back to this, especially because of the way my schedule's kind of worked out about now. It's going to be very beneficial for me. So good job, LCS. You got 1 out of 3 of us.
It works out. Well, we do have our special guest, Andy Barton, on tonight. Quick history rundown. I don't know how Knox always manages to find out all this information. So I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this interviewer who interviews rappers and
Nardwar.
You're
talking Nardwar.
I'm talking about Nardwar. Knox is like the Nardwar of esports. So
I don't know about that one.
So we'll see. All right, Andy, correct us if we're wrong on this. Your history: graduated from SMU back in 2016, bachelor's degree in economics. Knox found your frat. I don't know how he found your frat. Phi Delta Theta. So if there's any Phi Delta Thetas out there, then Andy's one of them.
He's Andy Barton. We have to know.
Exactly. Worked for Landry's, who's a giant restaurant conglomerate, for a couple years. And then moved over to the Houston Rockets as an esports development analyst, which basically became Clutch Gaming over there. From there, you were general manager for Dignitas and Clutch for the summer split of 2019, and then brought on over to Evil Geniuses as the director of athletics for the last basically 4 years or so, 3 to 4 years, until this offseason, joining FlyQuest as the new general manager. One thing I do want to ask is, what was kind of the process for you in deciding to join FlyQuest? We all know kind of like the end stage, the end game of, how Evil Geniuses kind of wrapped up their time here in LCS. We don't need to like delve too much into that, but becoming basically a free agent for the first time in 3-4 years, unrestricted wise, like what was the process for you in terms of where you wanted to go and how you wanted to go about it and what your ultimate goals were?
Yeah, I think really for me, when trying to, find the next team or, something in regards to that, but like what I cared about most going into, 2024 and beyond that, was really getting back to, I would say, working with really great people again. And I would say like throughout Clutch, Evil Geniuses, Dig, something that I feel like I've done pretty strong at is, assembling great groups of people and, allowing them to really, shine and do what they do best. And so, for me, I think, in my relationship in the LCS and throughout with different people and whatnot, Papa Smithy has been someone who, him at 100 Thieves, myself at EG, we were always a little bit on the offset, of the top three in the league, always trying to break in, kind of always competing for the same players and whatnot generally. And so, him and I had a tremendous relationship over the years. And so, when I'm kind of getting to the end of my tenure, more or less, at EG, and, FlyQuest is undergoing their changes, it was, pretty easy for me, I would say, to, want to be able to kind of pair up and link up with Papa Smithy. And, he trusts me a great deal and, what I've done, what I've accomplished and assembled. And so, being able to join sides, I would say, with Papa Smithy and this project here at FlyQuest is just, it was very obvious for me that that was something I would really want to do because him and I, we fostered such a great relationship over the years and what we've been trying to accomplish, what we want to achieve. And so, when I kind of relate that back to like my ultimate goals and all of this, my goal and dream kind of still remains to create the best esports team possible. It's to win a world championship. And, I guess the funny part is, we just recently did that at EG in the Valorant side. But, the question I was getting at this offseason was, it was like, wow, you've accomplished it all. You did it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had to reflect on it a lot because it was like, because I wanted to do it again. And what I realized was, winning isn't really the best thing. It's great. We all want to win, but it's actually the process of winning. And, I think like talking to some of our new players, and I think Bwipo is a fantastic example of this. And, just talking about the process of becoming a championship team and that journey you have to undergo is something that's so undervalued. And I think, I want to be able to create that journey and experience again here at FlyQuest. And, that's my ultimate goal is to create that championship experience again.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the drive to win, the drive for success. I certainly have felt that at times in my life, and yeah, totally resonate that. Going back a bit though,
dude, we got to know where it all started.
Yeah, where did it all start? You're seeing this concept of esports, for the first time. Maybe talk about when you first started hearing about esports. And then when did you know that you wanted to take your shot at getting into the esports scene and doing something awesome in the space?
Yeah, I think, I remember watching, esports as a whole going back to, I gotta say, I really started watching a lot around original Dota, but mainly StarCraft 2. And really watching, Huck, Idra, all the greats who came from StarCraft, and that's really, I think, when I kind of fell in love with it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then, ultimately a few years passed and everything, I end up going to university. I can no longer really grind games and become great and all that. And so, I kind of thought my journey was done and that was it. But it was super cool because Landry's ended up acquiring the NBA Houston Rockets, and everyone of course wants to transfer over there. But when the conversation started about an esports team and all of that, I raised my hand, was like, hey, this has been a big passion of mine. I've always wanted to do this. And really right place, right time. And I got the shot to really start off as a manager there, and kind of work my way up throughout the system. And I would say, the inflection point for me actually was when Clutch ended up selling to Dignitas, because I originally wasn't supposed to be going to Dignitas. And I was supposed to come back to the Rockets and really just begin corporate finance again and start that pathway again. But it was actually at that point where I said, no, I want to do this full time. I'm ready to commit 100%. And so that happened in like May of 2019 when I had that conversation with the Rockets ownership, and talked with the Dignitas owners and everything and got a position there. And that's really, I guess, my hard commitment to the space and knowing that I want to be here.
Okay, so jog my memory a little bit, and this kind of leads into question 2. I was not overly invested in Clutch and Dignitas at the time, and I remember the team kind of struggling after like franchising had started. They weren't really producing a lot of results, and then I remember that spring, like it was kind of iffy, and then you just kind of exploded in summer, right? So who was kind of in charge of that Dignitas management at the time, and what was it about that team in general that like you guys just found like this explosive success in summer, ended up taking 3rd place, going to Worlds, and I mean, while Worlds was unfortunate, like I think it's probably one of the most forgivable Worlds performances there is because of like how hard that group was, right? Yep. So just who was in management at the time for Dignitas, and like what was it about that team that let you guys just click and find that success?
Yeah, so spring was a pretty big disaster, I think, if we want to call it that. I think we ended 9th place in spring that year.
I was trying to be nice, but yeah.
we gotta call it what it is. It was a disaster. But we knew we had some great and talented pieces, as it related to NACL. It was called Academy at the time. But in our Academy program, we had some great pieces. At the LCS level, we also had some great pieces. And, I was able to identify a lot of problems with the team that I thought were fixable. And so ultimately, when the change of ownership happened between spring and summer, and I was promoted to general manager, I was able to make, quite a few moves from there. We made some, business moves at that point in time, as well as, big coaching staff moves. And so that was bringing in ThinkCard, who is now at NRG and has had extreme success. Thomas is a wonderful coach, one of the best in our league. And so I am not shocked whatsoever to see him continuing to have success. And so he came along as our head coach. And then we also had one of our assistant coaches, Rigby, who was at, EG and C9 historically as well. And so Rigby's fantastic. I know him well. And then we ended up promoting Artemis as well. Connor Doyle, he came up from NACL and, helped us out at the LCS level. And lastly, we ended up bringing up Cody's son from Academy, and Cody's fantastic, worked really well for us that year. And I think when it came down to the coaching staff, we were able to identify, how do we win with these players, and how do we get the right drafts on stage. And it really all came together from there. And I think a lot of that has to do with assembling the right group of individuals and people, because I never thought we were the most talented team mechanically or anything like that. But what I was confident was, and I've seen this time and time again, the teams that go to Worlds or end up actually winning a split are actually just the teams that have not mental kaboomed. And I think, that is why culture is actually so impeccably important in a team, and making sure that you can create that type of environment. And so that's why that year was actually really special, because it made me want to dial in so much more on that culture and always focus on making sure that we can have an outstanding culture among the team. And so, I credit a lot of that run to, our players, our coaches, and, that culture we were able to create there.
Sick. I love to hear that. And hopefully you'll probably do it, but hopefully you can recreate that magic again in the coming years.
So you were just talking a lot about developing culture, and your next project, you had a lot of time to develop a culture, because when Sacrifox deals with their controversy and they leave the league, Evil Geniuses come in, and you decide to join them. So on your side, how did you end up at Evil Geniuses, and what appealed to you about the organization?
Yeah, so I think for me, joining EG, this was quite honestly a dream come true. I talked earlier in the podcast just about, growing up in esports and, watching StarCraft 2, it was really Team Liquid and EG. Those were, the faces of North America. And so I would say really to get that call from EG and, wanting to build out and establish their LCS program, it's really a dream come true. But, I would say for me also, leaving that Dignitas project and what we were building, what it wanted to become, it was extremely hard. I turned down the offer multiple times at EG because, I'm very loyal to my people and wanted to build something great at Dig. But, to be able to come over and, start from a fresh canvas, more or less, and because that's what they had. That we actually had no assets, we had no coaches, we had nothing. And so I got to start over entirely and kind of tell myself, okay, can I actually do this again? And so, for those first 2 years or so, we had to undergo, a little bit of, how we can do this from the ground up. There were philosophies about, can we just buy the best players? Can we just create a culture over time and whatnot? And I think the good thing is, as we kind of approach, years 2 and 3, we really dialed in on, developing our academy and amateur players, and just focusing on going from the ground up. Because if we wanted to get into the top 3 super quickly, it would just cost way too much money. And you have to be able to do things in a certain process. You need the right rookies in, and it's very hard to win in your first year unless you have hit a jackpot on your dice roll. It's just so hard, and so you have to get the right people in the building, and that takes a little bit of time. As we kind of saw at Clutch as well. We weren't successful year 1, but then that success really started creeping up in year 2, and that's something I take a lot of pride in with all the teams I'm a part of. I really care a lot about that year over year or split over split improvement from our teams.
Awesome. So 3 years after that, because it started out all rosy, you developed a culture, and then it kind of started sinking ship.
Mm-hmm.
So as fans of FlyQuest from 1920, we've seen plenty of iterations of the org at this point. And so now that you're here, coming into this year, you are at somewhat of a blank canvas. So what are you hoping to do with that experience developing EG and bringing it over to here with the blank canvas you've been giving?
Yeah, I think it's, we've definitely made a lot of changes here on the FlyQuest side, especially at the LCS level. We've gone ahead and retained a few folks, one of them being Richard, who's one of our assistants / strategic coaches here. And so, as I continue to build out this program, I'm super happy right now with where our coaching staff is. A lot of former players, and one of my beliefs and a little bit on the coaching side is I need to see a lot more players become coaches, because these are the guys with that high game knowledge, and we can supplement them with people who have more maybe emotional intelligence when it comes to situations. And so, as I'm thinking about the future in FlyQuest and really, how do we build this out over the next few years, what I want to get right, this first year is trying to get the right folks in the building. And I think we've actually done an incredible job of that this offseason. We went through about 30 to 40 interviews with different coaches. We spoke with a lot of different players. And so I could not be happier actually with how things landed in the offseason, with who we have, who we're getting and all that. Because, my core focus is going to be on setting up, our culture, setting up the processes, the systems, everything behind the scenes that I think, will give us success closer to the end of the year for the years to come. And that, because I care a lot about that year over year improvement. And so I just have to make sure that I'm moving the organization in the right direction so that we can capitalize when the time is right.
So real fast, and I don't know if this is something you can reveal or not, but are there any KPIs that you'd be okay sharing that you could maybe just maybe as fans that we could track? Is that something you would be able to share or no?
Yeah, I think actually I think Papa Smithy on a podcast said something about some of our KPIs, and I'm actually kind of blanking on them a little bit, but I feel very confident this year. No, I think we are determined to make Worlds this year, and so I do think that will be a KPI for us.
Okay.
And as we kind of approach the off season and really trying to think about that, we became more confident. And now that scrims have been starting and whatnot, talking with our players, what are our expectations and whatnot, we're definitely going for Worlds this year. Which it probably is a little crazy for some people, thinking it's a brand new team and everything. But the cool thing is, when we struck this conversation with all our players, we're working with the guys. If I came in and told them we're only interested in playoffs, they're going to tell you what the fuck. And so all of our guys have such high expectations, and I think that was really awesome going into this offseason, that everyone is motivated. They want to get to Worlds, they want to get back to that stage, because all of our guys have been there, except Massu and Busio, I guess. And so we'll get to them eventually. But for that veteran top side of Bwipo, Jensen, and Inspired, losing isn't acceptable. And that's the type of culture I also want to build. We're not here to make playoffs anymore. No, we're actually here to win a trophy. We're here to go to Worlds. And so that's that type of atmosphere we got to create here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, we are glad as fans to know that making Worlds is a KPI. I mean, I think for us,
yes,
FlyQuest
100%.
making Worlds would be, absolutely a KPI in our book. So obviously
Been patiently waiting.
Yeah, and patiently waiting for that to happen. So hey, we already started talking about the roster, so let's chat about the off season a little bit and run it down. I don't think it's like very private knowledge that there was one particular mid laner that everyone was going after, and he signed with Cloud9. So, Jensen is a very, very good player who has been very good in this league for a long time. Let's start in the mid lane. The options at mid lane were kind of interesting when you just looked at the free agent pool. And I know some people looked at Jensen after the Dignitas season, ourselves included, and said, ooh, don't know about that one.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, guilty as charged on our part. But I want to hear from you, what was kind of, what were the reasons that you felt really good about bringing Jensen in? I mean, we know that, like, besides last year, the guy has made Worlds every single year. So he's a proven competitor, has the proven experience. But what was it about him in particular that made you want to bring him onto this roster?
Yeah, so I think for Jensen, when I think about, our scouting, our processes and all that, it was kind of funny going into the offseason because myself and my staff a little bit, we haven't scouted mid lane for a number of years now. Just, when we found JoJo, it was great. We're done with this lane forever.
Yeah.
So, we returned to the offseason. I started scouting in this role, and now I realize this is why JoJo is so special. And so JoJo's great. I wish the best for him, and I know he's going to find success in no matter what he does. But when I remove JoJo from that equation, and I start to look at the field and what else is out there, Jensen has always been at the top. And there's never a doubt or a worry about him as a player. What you're going to get with him. You have an understanding of his performance. Always going to be punching, above average at his worst. And so, when what we're able to do with that is, to create a lot of stability with the roster where, we probably need a lot of stability going into year one. Having stable pieces on the team are incredibly important, especially for developing players. So, that was something we cared about a lot. You can only develop so many pieces, kind of on a team at a time. And so we wanted to be sure that, we are kind of prioritizing our bot line, making sure that we can get off the ground running with them. But kind of going back to Jensen, Jensen's performance even this last year, I thought was very solid. I wasn't worried about him whatsoever. I think there's always a little bit of a difference when, I'm not going to throw teams under the bus, but, when you kind of are joining, probably a worse org, worse roster and everything, your ability to shine and, be happy and get better, it's so underrated and so hard. And so, when we bring up the context of Jensen has made Worlds every year, like this dude has always shown up when you need him the most. And so I just don't have really fear from, what I saw this last year with Jensen at Dig and whatnot. Still, it performed incredible. And so that's why it was easy, kind of making that decision with him in the offseason and, talking with our other pieces, because Jensen was actually the last piece to come on board. And so, all of our players were bought in, kind of knew Jensen's it. Let's definitely get him. This is an easy decision. So he was one of the last pieces to join us, but overall we're excited.
Awesome. Well, then let's go back and start at the beginning. Where did the offseason begin? I mean, we know that Massu was already on the Challengers team. So was there ever any question about promoting him up to LCS or bringing someone else in? Was he always the guy? Did you start with him and then build everything else around him? What was kind of the process from day one of offseason?
Yeah, I would say, I never try to give a scenario like 100% chance. And so, Massu had the spot, I would say, with 99% certainty. And I would also say, we didn't necessarily design the entire roster to be like around him per se. And why I say that is because, I've never worked personally with Massu. And so, I'm going to have to undergo a little bit of process myself, kind of learning about him, learning how to activate best with him, getting those best results from him. And so, all of us kind of as a staff have to learn a little bit about that with Massu. But we've got some great pieces here who can help with that. Rocco will be heading up the NACL program, who was instrumental in helping get Massu to the next level. Richard, again, a returning FlyQuest staff member who has insight on him. So Massu was definitely kind of that first piece for us. And then after that, we spent a lot of time really looking at the other lanes and everything. And, that's where we quickly went into Busio, I would say. And so maybe moving in the Busio direction a little bit. But, for me and Busio, I think it's so funny because I think in 2018 or 2019, I don't remember which year, but I've actually been trying to recruit Busio for years. It was actually it was actually as a mid laner and much before I found Jojo Pion. But Papa Smithy got his hands on Busio first and then role swapped him to support. And I found that to be really interesting. But for Alan, I mean, Alan is one of those people I would say who's just he's an incredible young man, very smart. Reminds me a lot of Jojo a little bit. When you have this, when you're all put together, really understand what it takes to win. That effort, the work level you have to put in. And so for Alan, I think everyone should strive and love to have a player like this on your team. And so it's super fantastic having him. Obviously his mid lane experience, so that gives you more possibility to flex different stuff. We saw a little bit of that last year when he was playing Azir support. I'm not going to be promising any Azir support. That's a little too much cooking for me, even though our bot lane does love to cook. But Alan's been fantastic. I think he also really wants to step up and strive to become a leader on the team, and that is really something we want to push on him. Taking a little bit from. I want him really to kind of look at, Bwipo inspired and Jensen, because these guys are older, they're veterans, they've had great success. And so I really want Alan, we've talked about this a little bit, kind of focusing on learning, what made these guys great? What are those leadership qualities I got to focus on? And so that's kind of a big point of emphasis I'm looking at, for Busio and his development, especially working with Massu. Those two went to Korea this offseason, and they also got to work with, their positional coach Arrow out there. We had them in a house grinding solo queue the entire time, doing 2v2 practices and whatnot. So, for the two of them, they're hungry and eager to get better. And, what more can I ask out of a rookie bot lane who just, they want to become the best. They're hungry for it. So I'm extremely excited for the two of them.
So real fast before we get to our veteran top side, I did want to quick follow up on Massu. Kelsey Moser, even earlier today, along with Emily Rand, were doing a podcast together, and I've heard it mentioned elsewhere as well. But they often refer to Massu as a potential Danny, right? Like he's not currently at Danny's level. He may not even reach Danny's level, but he has the potential to. Now, I guess I was out of curiosity with you being the new GM and having kind of seen him up close, and obviously you just said yourself that you're still kind of learning to work with him and see how he plays and so on and so forth. But would you say those are fair comparisons that people have been making so far? Does he have that potential to be a new Danny, if you will?
That is what I look at, that is how I look at Massu a little bit for sure. When it comes to like a Massu versus Danny comparison, I think, Masu's laning is going to definitely be better than Danny's. That was obviously Danny's weak point. But I would say Danny's ceiling when it came to team fighting will probably never be able to be matched in all of North America. And, Massu definitely still has a high ceiling, but, the ceiling of Danny was something, again, I don't think that will ever be matched. And so that's been really cool to see out of Massu, especially that understanding of that we have a stronger lane in the early game. And so, as we continue to figure out how we want to play as a team, it probably will be interesting to see, if some of those components of how, the EG team did play with Danny, does that sort of, start to happen here at FlyQuest a little bit? Because we do have pieces really to kind of activate with that. But it will take some time to figure out, can Massu actually do that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Real quick, I want to ask about Inspired. Obviously the green card doesn't do too much right now in terms of import slots, because Jensen was grandfathered in, so it's 4 NA and 1 EMEA player.
Mhm.
How much though did the green card stuff affect the decision making at all? Did it make it easier to bring him in because now you don't have to think about, okay, well, we only get 1 import slot after this if we bring him on? Did that change the calculus at all? Obviously, we know he's an amazing player, a world-class jungler, going to be top 3 in his role, either in NA or EU. But I'm very curious about if the green card changed the calculus there for you.
It really did not change the calculus at all. And that's because, like, I think, in this offseason, there was definitely enough NA talent in the pools, and I didn't see, like, a severe need really to import at the time. Um, but I would also add that, like, part of me honestly did not believe he was getting the green card because I was like, I was just like, this is unheard of getting a green card this quick.
Yeah,
And I
it
do
is
remember
fast.
when he started the process at EG, because I was actually a little bit upset because I figured by the time you get this green card, you're going to be a free agent and you're going to leave me. And so I can't do anything with this. So, but I guess, we've come full circle and now we're actually at FlyQuest together
Right.
and it all worked out. So I found that to be very hilarious about that whole, green card process that we went through, because it arrived at, the right time when we're coming to FlyQuest. But, I think it'll definitely be something we think about as, we are continuing to think about the roster. But honestly, it did not play too much of a factor this offseason. If we're going to import, it has to be for the right people. And, I'm very critical about, I want to be more critical about any imports that we are bringing to the region. Inspired is someone who wants to be here in North America, likes the culture, likes the teams, likes the players. And so, that is very important for me in the recruiting process when dealing with players from abroad, is making sure that they are getting into this for the right reason.
So speaking of imports, we got to get to my personal favorite part of the team, the top lane. How did we get Bwipo? How did he get here? And why are you excited to have him on the team? Because I'm going to be cheering you guys on hard every week with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's not obvious, Bwipo is like Hurley's favorite player. So
Big Bwipo fan.
like psych him up.
No, I mean, Bwipo, I will say Bwipo is probably one of the players I spent most time chatting with, starting early October, I would say. And, our talks going kind of all the way to the free agency date, I would say. Um, every time I walked away super positive, and really, I think what kind of convinced me more or less about Bwipo, our scouting, everything, fantastic player. I'm not worried about that. But, it was actually the conversation about, really how he reflected on his time, from Fnatic, from TL, and kind of hearing, the journey he went through. And, I spoke a lot about, the journey and that process, the culture and whatnot. And so, hearing that honest and brutal truth, from Bwipo and his reflections and what he wants to do better and, how he thinks he's going to do better, what he wants to do, for rookie players, how he wants to affect North America, this was one of the most genuine conversations I truly have ever had with a player, because you could tell, his heart was absolutely in the right place. And so, I think when having a player like Bwipo, I feel truly fortunate and blessed to be able to have him in our building and, wanting to, build something greater than himself. And, those are the type of people I need with me at FlyQuest to build ourselves into a top tier program. I need people who want to believe, in the organization, believe in the rosters, believe in our NACL program, want to help them get the whole org better. And, Bwipo proved that throughout the entire offseason. And so, again, my scouts and, the work the coaching staff did, I got no concerns about him in game. Guy loves the limit test, has his fun, pull out the spicy picks, and like that's going to be impeccable for, a BO5 or even a BO1. So that's going to be really fun. But, from a cultural standpoint, I feel really great about having Bwipo. Again, he's made a lot of reflections about, the past, but, hearing from him in the journey about, getting to finals in Fnatic, what happened at TL and, what he's learned from it, that journey is so important to becoming a top tier roster and a team. And so it's just awesome to have him and wanting to, build it all over again, kind of similar to myself having to build it all over again.
Cool. The last little bit. So Nukeduck, previously coaching for 100 Thieves. I would say was not someone I was highly considering that would be someone that we would have wanted for the team. But like kind of talking to people over time, it's, I mean, very player focused, very knowledgeable about the game, still plays a lot, still plays at a very high level. Can be someone that can be a great sounding wall for the veterans, I would imagine. But I just kind of wanted to hear from your perspective, what, like, because you said you went through like 30 or 40 coach interviews, right? So I guess what was it that really helped Nukeduck stand out amongst all those other coaches?
Yeah, I mean, we went through a grueling process in the offseason throughout our interviews and everything. Normally, teams like to, have their head coach in, help build the team. We actually took a little bit of an opposite approach where, we kind of halted a little bit on, that head coach search and really dialed in on actually building the team before that head coach came in. So, having that little bit of a reverse process, we ended up actually trying to select, who we think might be best equipped to actually work with this roster. And so for Nukeduck, again, one of my big things is I want to see more former players become coaches. I think, one of my learnings a little bit in the Dota world was, I think every coach is basically a former player, and they're able to have that high level conversation with the players in the game and whatnot. And actually, we don't see that much in League. And so one of the things I've been trying to really push over the years is seeing more players become coaches. And so, for Nukeduck, an absolutely historic career in the LEC, for his time coaching in the LCS last year under for his time last year coaching under 100 Thieves, he only had a short stint as that head coach, but really talking with Busio a little bit, understanding, how was he as a head coach? What did he do? How was he in review and all of that? My gut and, what I was able to kind of figure out from that process a little bit, I think it's going to work extremely well with, Bwipo inspired and Jensen a little bit. And, having this think tank now of, a lot of former players on our coaching staff, a lot of players with a lot of high game knowledge, being that of really our top side of the map, and creating that collaborative process between our coaches and our players on how do we become the best in the world. And I think that has been really fun to see our coaching staff dive in with the players. Nukeduck, he'll be arriving actually this Wednesday, so we've had him remote the whole time. But Richard and Arrow really have been our advocates on the ground, doing a fantastic job with the players. Nukeduck has been in the review every day on the TV, unfortunately, but we kind of do what we got to do. But for our guys, really what I want to be able to help them with, because they're all a little bit of green and new coaches, help them out a lot with their structures, a lot with their process. How are they thinking about things? Because I think we have some of the highest game knowledge in the league in this room right now. And so what I need to be sure about is making sure to set them up for success going into this year, because I'm confident they can do it.
Cool. So I would be remiss if I did not mention the NACL. FlyQuest is one of two teams that has a Challengers team still in the NACL. So we don't have to go through the whole thing like we did just now for the main team, but maybe just a quick summary over like how did you get to this current FlyQuest Challengers roster, which for those of you who are not aware is currently consisting of Surdy, Shaden, Quad, Sajed, am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. And then Chime, who was the TSM support from LCS last year.
Yeah, so for NACL, Papa Smithy and I historically have both had success within our NACL programs. And so this was definitely a program we want to continue with. And, I think if you see teams investing in it, similar to FlyQuest, they have an inherent belief that they can truly extract value out of the program. And so, looking a little bit about, EG and what we're able to do there when it came to promoting Danny and JoJo, we want to be able to, utilize a similar program here at FlyQuest. And so, for us, we have Surdy and Shaden coming from EG as well. Both of these players, for Surdy this year, I mean, he should already be in the LCS. And so, I pray he'll get his shot, pretty soon. For Shaden, we saw him a little bit last year in summer, another fantastic player, one of probably the best junglers out in NA. Unfortunately, I do have the #1 jungler in all of NA with Inspired. And so, that's something that has to be noted, but Shaden is fantastic. when it comes down to Quad, this is a player who didn't have too much success in the LCK, but when scouting and looking at his work a little bit, this can be a fantastic player. And so we want to be able to give him a platform to find success in the NACL. And, hopefully, he's able to find a little bit more of himself and, become that player he wants to become. So really excited to have Quad here and really work on that assimilation process with him in the United States. And then for Sajid was a player who was in the EG Combine when they were running that this last year, and got to meet Sajid actually at our finals viewing party this past November. And so that was super cool meeting him there. But Sajid is fantastic. We've seen him in CQ. He's doing crazy good. And then for Chime as well, Chime has had a great history. So far we really want to be setting up, to make sure that we can assimilate Quad best and properly. So that's kind of a core focus on the team, is ensuring that, Quad is able to get accustomed to this country. And, for the rest of the players, it's going to be, they want to win. They're super hungry. I've never necessarily looked at an NACL program with the core goal being that to win. I think there are other factors that go into it. But, with Rocco returning as our NACL coach, these guys' aspirations, they very much want to win. And so we're excited to have Quad here. I think he's going to be arriving actually tomorrow at noon. And so we'll get Quad here and, excited to meet him, start working with him. He'll, be here at the office and, see the LCS team, how they're working, see how reviews are and whatnot. So I'm excited for NACL to get started. Rocco, our head coach, will be arriving in a few days. So the guys will definitely be going into NACL this year a little bit under practiced. But, I'm super confident by the end of the split that you're going to see how strong they are.
So then real quick, I think, would it be fair to say that, because you said earlier that you cannot develop every piece that you'd ever want to, right? So would it be fair to say that Quad and Sajid are like your two core development pieces on this roster? Not to say that the other guys aren't developing, right? But like those are your core ones, or would you define it differently?
I would say so, maybe. I think what's cool is like Bwipo and, Surdy have a tremendous relationship. They've been 1v1ing practice for, I think most of the year this year. And so, I think like those two being able to better themselves is going to be really cool and unique. And so, Surdy, I hope gets to LCS soon. Like, I think he's tremendous. And so, I don't want to call him like a developmental piece really, but, all of these guys still are developing. Shaden, is a solo queue monster and still, has to work out some of his, problems within team and, how he gets better. So, everyone is developing in a way, but, like for Quad, for example, I don't think we're like developing truly, but what we're developing is, his ability to assimilate, get past some of his stuff that he needs to work through. So this is a very high functioning NACL team than what probably I'm used to working with in the past.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry, Sandy. I know I was sneaking questions in there.
No, that's totally fine. Yes, I mean, so still spinning off of NACL, the tier 2 scene right now in NA is kind of rough. What are you personally hoping to see from Riot, other orgs, or even FlyQuest itself in terms of helping to build the tier 2 scene back up again? I mean, we've got some creator orgs like Disguise that have come into the space and done well for themselves. Some other smaller orgs that are still in the scene. As the way forward, people always talk about utilizing the collegiate scene. I mean, we're seeing a lot of NACL players pulling double duty and also playing for collegiate teams this year as well, which I think is great, personally. But is the way forward collegiate, or can the NACL become like its own proper tier 2 league that does help feed players into the LCS down the line?
So I think we are going to continue to invest in our NACL program to be able to, move our players up and down in a system, because we've had that success historically. So I'm not too worried about it, I guess, from a personal POV. I would say like maybe from an ecosystem standpoint, I do anticipate or expect collegiate to eventually take over. And a lot of that has to do with, there really aren't just revenue drivers in the NACL, hence why you see a lot of teams want to exit it. And, the value you find in it is being able, if you do not promote players from it, then it is you don't have value in it, and that is just a savings exercise you really have to go through from a budgetary standpoint. And I don't think many teams understood that well enough throughout the years in NACL. So my fear is, and I think I've been seeing this across multiple tier 2 scenes, I guess, more or less, is when you're not able, I guess, to make a livable wage, or the wages are just continuing to plummet, you're going to see more and more talent exit the space. I think an interesting exercise we went through on the Game Changers team in Valorant, as we were building out the team over there, and going through a combine process, is understanding how many players actually might just quit because they didn't get the job. And that is really heartbreaking to an extent, when as an NACL program, you probably most likely have some of the best salaries, and not everyone can get access to them. And so when they don't get that, it's the opportunity cost, and it screws you a little bit, because maybe now you have to pursue something else. So I really would like to see more teams invest in NACL. I understand why they don't, but I think if you're able to promote talent upwards in your own system, that's how you get value. And if you don't do that, then you are absolutely wasting money.
Did I lose internet? Oh, okay.
I think
Curly
muted.
is muted, I think.
Muted.
Aha, there we go. So, while we're on the topic of promoting upwards, let's promote this topic back up to the LCS, where we now have Markz as the new commissioner. Games are on weekend again. We still have best of ones, and there seems to be a bigger focus on the games getting put on quicker, with content just squeezed in where it seems appropriate. So we've already talked about your thoughts on the weekend, but I want to hear kind of about the other changes, the pre-recorded drafts, and the fact that we're still on best of ones. How do you feel about this upcoming season?
Yeah, you brought up pre-recording drafts. I mean, we're going to find out a little bit more about this and how this process works in practicality, obviously this upcoming weekend. And so, I think what I'm outlining to my staff more or less is, we definitely have to see how this goes, and, we can obviously prepare ourselves best we can. But, always the first few weeks at Riot, I'm not going to say are a shit show, but, you got to be ready for change and whatnot, and be adaptable. And so, as we kind of learn what, our process as a team looks like backstage, how we get ready for a game, we're going to make some modifications along the way. There's no doubt about that, because, all of my players will be getting ready in their own different way, and Tanner DeMonte is going to be working specifically which each one of them with our coaching staff to best prepare everyone on the day. So the pre-recording draft conversation is probably like the most interesting element of this to me, and what I just got to be sure from a process standpoint is that we're ready to go, because it will be new day one, and so we'll have to make changes very quickly. But as far as Markz coming up, and I think I'm super excited to see Mark there. He loves, breathes League of Legends. He understands our scene, understands what it needs. Is able to flex into the business side as well. So I'm very optimistic on the future of the LCS, and I think I'd like to say we've hit a bottom, and it can't get worse. But you never know. But I think
let's hope not.
Let's be careful
Mark
there, Andy.
with Markz coming in, some of these changes we're seeing is like some of the analysis I was able to see on like the viewership data, and why these changes are being made felt very thoughtful, and I think I'm super willing to see these changes in effect. So that will be exciting. And then obviously, we bring up BO1s. I think, that might not be something we ever get changed. I selfishly will always hold out for, if we can meet in the middle at best of 2, I'm going to be very happy. Best of 3 would be the dream, but, I'll be happy with BO2. And so, yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be about how that drafting process looks backstage for our guys, and, making sure that we can get them ready to go on stage at 100% capacity. So that'll be kind of the learning we undergo this next weekend.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this weekend we've got LCS and NACL. NACL team, I believe, is... I just pulled it up, and now I'm going to lose it, unfortunately. They are playing... Disguised on Saturday. So that'll be a very hype matchup. And then FlyQuest is taking on... LCS team is taking on both Shopify Rebellion and Immortals. Andy, before we hit the lightning round, I want to ask you one final big question. That is, what are you most excited for from FlyQuest in this 2024? Like, what is the one big thing that you are so looking forward to, that you are super excited to share with everyone, or see from the org, or see from the team?
Yeah, I think, like I said, we've been on vacation now for, it's not vacation, but, we haven't been with the team for many months now. And so, I'm excited. We're back in the grind again. We're building that team. And so, as I think we're in 2024, but as I think to like 2025 and beyond, like what I'm excited to get back to is, building that culture and building that team again. Before joining FlyQuest, I actually did not even realize that, they've turned over, all of their players pretty much every year. And I truly didn't realize that. And so, for me, from a roster building standpoint, something I want to be sure about going into these future years is, we're able to retain that core. Ideally, we're looking at retaining about 3 out of 5 of our players and, making sure that we can stick to kind of that ethos going into every year as we're developing the roster. So, for me, this building process is actually what I look forward to most in really the years to come, because, again, it's about getting those right people in the building. And I think we absolutely hit a home run, this offseason with getting a lot of those pieces in. And I'm super excited, really, I think, for the community and fans to, see that, FlyQuest is actually dedicated to the LCS, wants to win. We want to be here and really just make sure that, we are showing North America that, we can be proud of this region. And that's what I care about most, is just making sure that we can put on a product that, our fans and the region are excited to watch.
Awesome. Well, that is super exciting. I know we are very excited for the 2024 season, season 14 of League of Legends. And yeah, we really can't wait to see what the team can produce, and can't wait to root them on and cheer them all the way to Worlds, all the way to Europe this year. All right, we are into the lightning round now, so we're going to move fast. I'm going to need you to name a couple hobbies that you like to do in your downtime and why.
Well, my hobbies typically end up being super work related, which is unfortunate.
That is okay. Feel free to name them whatsoever.
I would say for me, I'm a big WoW Classic player, so
Nice.
That is actually what I enjoy to do in my free time. It's not a mechanically taxing game. It is a game you could sit there, have a beer with your friends, and really just enjoy the camaraderie about the game.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to do a lot in my free time.
Season of Discovery or
season? I'm there with you. Don't worry. So I'm there.
Okay.
So season of Discovery has been going great, but in a lot of my free time, I love, going out to dinner with the boys. I guess that's more work related and everything. But I am a big sports fan as well. So right now I've been watching the NFL playoffs, NBA. I am a big fan of the NBA. We're in the regular season right now, so I've been focused a little bit on the NFL. But big sports watcher. So I would say like that's kind of my big go-to activities at the moment.
Makes sense. So
it'd be fair to say you're a Houston Rockets and Houston Texans fan?
Absolutely, 100%, and an Astros fan. So I love the LA people. Love hearing that. So tell them that as well.
Yeah. I can be fine with all of that until we get to the Astros part, and after that,
goodness,
I start to get a little. Don't like that so much. All right, biggest difference living in California compared to Texas.
I would say it's definite. Well, the first one is obvious. It's the prices on everything. I always find it comical when you have lunch here. It could be $20 or something. You go back to Texas and it's literally half the price. And so it is always a treat getting to go back to Texas and saving that money. That's been great. But I would also say like the cultures are just so different. I think the way people interact with one another, mannerisms and everything, as it relates to how people act at restaurants and everything, like I find Texas people to be a little more nice. I think Texas has like the nicest people on the planet. So I love Texas. I love being there. But I love esports and that's why I'm here in LA working it. So I love what I do.
Awesome.
All right.
This is. Oh, go ahead, Curly.
Oh, no. You go ahead. Oh,
I was gonna ask if you have any pets.
So I do not have a pet. I used to actually have a golden retriever, and I've given her to my parents. But that's because she loves being in the pool, and I live in an apartment here in LA, and so it feels a little too unfair to have a golden retriever who loves to be outside, loves to swim. So she's at my parents' house, lives there, lives in the pool basically. So I had to give her up when I kind of got into esports a few years ago. So I go back and see her and miss her all the time, but no pets.
All right, this last one, it's very important as it will affect the way you are viewed in the Discord by this community. What are your thoughts on the venerable Tim Kench?
On Tom Kench?
No, on Tim Kench.
Tim Kench.
I thought that was a misspelling when you asked.
No.
So clearly my stonks are going down at the moment.
If you look at general chat in the FlyQuest Discord right now, you'll see plenty of examples.
You're gonna have to help me. So I don't necessarily understand the meme or how this came.
Oh boy, here we go.
I need a history lesson.
He doesn't know.
Oh man. So, quick summary is I don't know where the full art is anymore, but if Road Roller is listening to chat, if Road Roller is in chat, he might be able to drop it in the general chat of FlyQuest and you can just look at it. But the little stickers that are posted pretty much daily of Tim Kench are from a very quick MS Paint rendition that appeared, I want to say, on the Reddit about 2020. Am I right, Knox?
Yeah, it was 2020.
And it just developed a lot of mysterious lore about it, and now it's just a really, kind of deep fried, similar to like a deep fried version of a meme. It's just a simplified Tom Kench with he's the really
unofficial mascot of FlyQuest.
No,
there it is.
Look at it. I see it spammed all the time, and I've kind of always been wondering. I should have asked Numi or someone like, what is with this meme? Can anyone give me a history lesson?
Well, and then if you look at the bottom of the sticker that was the Fly Win sticker in the Discord, he is wearing Tim's, hence Tim Kench.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I get it a little better. Thank you for the context.
So now what we need is your opinion on this character.
Yes.
And how you feel about him from a personal standpoint.
Looks great to me. I love it. I mean, Tom Kench is one of my favorite champs, depending on the lane, but I'm a big fan, so looks good to me, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your new general manager, a big fan of Tim Kench. He passes the test. We're all very happy.
You're on the good side. Just so you're aware, your boss is not a fan of Tim Kench. So
we need you to persuade Chris over the year.
I like it. I like it. I don't know. Chris can be a little weird sometimes. I'll talk with him a little bit this
year. Awesome. Andy, well, we're coming to the end here of our time with you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Been awesome chatting with you, hearing your perspective on the team, where we're going forward this year, and everything else that we've discussed. Wanted to ask you if there's anything that you feel like we should have touched on that you want to speak to, or anything that you want to shout out in particular.
No, nothing necessarily. I think, I'm really excited for this upcoming year. I think, there is so much possibility here at FlyQuest. And so, I want to get back to my roots a little bit of trying to build and, assemble the best teams ever. And so we're really going to be getting back here at FlyQuest and making sure, that we have clean processes. You are seeing that year-over-year improvement on the team. And, the fans know that every year, we are getting better and, we're trying to get to the top of the table. So that's something, from a fandom POV that I want to be sure that, we're going to be seeing. So there's that. And I also really just want to take the time to, probably shout out, all my players and staff, for all the work they have put in, especially on the staff side. I think we spent, so much of November and December, obviously assembling the team, but, we do a lot of extra work in December, to really understand our players, how are we going to get the best results with them? How do we maximize the potential we have here? And so, from Nukeduck, Arrow, Richard, Empire, Sig, everyone who's been helping out with this program, they've been doing an excellent job. I forgot our team manager, Ton, who's been working, Tanner DeMonte, who's been working to become a performance coach and kind of learning, a little bit of that vessel. We've been in every day. And so I'm really excited to, see us this weekend. I'm confident it'll be a 2-0 and you guys are going to be very impressed with, how great we look, how much fun we're having. The picks are going to be fun. Everything we're doing about this team is going to be fun. So from a product standpoint, I'm super excited, for you guys really to see what we're cooking here.
I'm hyped. I'm very, very hyped. I'm very excited to watch everything you guys got planned. So keep it coming. I'm ready.
Awesome.
I need to be Saturday so I can watch this team already, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm excited, man. I want to be here.
Let's skip the week.
Forget the NFL divisional rounds. LCS playoff. LCS, not playoffs. LCS week 1 is here. And we're ready to go. So forget the NFL.
All of our NFL teams minus Curly are out anyway. Well, I guess Andrews is in.
And the Texans are still in. So
yeah, the Texans are still in. So you know what? We'll cheer for the Bills and the Texans.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing: is I got to go against Taylor Swift. So that's real hard.
I don't think Disney's going to allow them to lose. So we'll see.
Yeah, you had a good run, buddy. Just take it while you can.
Yeah, until the refs decide to pull some nonsense, we'll see what happens. All right, Andy, thank you. Knox, do you have one other thing you want to say?
Well, I was going to say, we have stuff that we're doing after this. I was going, again, and there's no pressure to Andy. I know you're a busy guy. You got stuff to do. Yep. But you are more than welcome to stick around for the next segment of the show.
I'm going to jump off. As you guys are doing power rankings, I'm going to think of scrims too much, and, I'm probably going to say too much. So I'm going to stop myself from getting to that point. But
just tell us who second place is.
Oh,
because we know that FlyQuest is first.
It'll be C9 for sure. I gave you guys some hints about how things are going before the call and all that. So just remember that a little bit in the power rankings. Right,
C9 second place.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in 30 seconds to a minute as we transition over to our second featured presentation of the night. All right. Thanks again, Andy, and hopefully we'll talk to you again real soon. All right. See you guys in just a minute.